To 1 o'clock, Saturday's lunchtime news now on BBC One Wales is presented by Rich Preston.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to the BBC's News at 1. We start with the latest on the Israel-Gaza war. 20 truckloads of aid have now crossed the Gaza Strip through the Rafah checkpoint on the Egyptian border. They are the first humanitarian supplies allowed to enter since Israel tightened its blockade of the territory. Gaza has been under extensive Israeli bombardment after Hamas, which is listed as a terrorist organisation by the UK government and others, carried out its attack inside Israel 2 weeks ago. 1,400 Israelis were killed in that attack. Meanwhile, Palestinian health authorities say more than 4,300 people have been killed in Gaza. Tom Bateman reports now from Jerusalem.
After a 10-day wait, the lorries carrying desperately needed water, food and medicine finally began rolling into Gaza this morning. A glimmer of hope delivered on the back of a lorry. 20 trucks are coming in thanks to the UN, says this aid worker, among those waiting with Egypt. The aid was broken by the US. Egypt called for the Israelis to stop bombing the crossing. Israel wanted guarantees the supplies could be sold by Hamas. This is a start, but aid groups say much more is needed.
Medical needs in Gaza are huge, so what we need is a sustained aid access. We have more supplies coming to Egypt, and hopefully we will be able to ship them, because more we wait, more lives will be lost, and situation is getting desperate in hospitals in Gaza.
Israel's bombardment went on this morning, while Palestinian rockets were fired from the Strip. Gaza's humanitarian crisis is deepening. Tahrir is sheltering with her 6 children in a school building.
There is not even 1% of a good, healthy and safe life for a child. There is no safety. If we don't die from war, we will die from epidemics and diseases.
Meanwhile, the family of 2 American hostages released in Gaza last night spoke of their joy. Natalie and her mother Judith Ranan were handed over to the Red Cross and received by the Israeli army. They are the first captives to be freed. Their families said they were thinking of all the others. More than 200 people, including children and the elderly, are still being held hostage by Hamas. Israel has said it will maintain its siege until they are freed. For their loved ones, last night's release may bring some hope, a faint light in the darkness of war. Tom Bateman, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Well, the BBC's Rushdie Abdulalouf is at the Rafah crossing on the Gaza side. He sent this update a short time ago.
20 trucks are carrying food, medicine, and we understand operation room for the Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. This convoy is the first 20 trucks that crossed from coming from the Egyptian side to the Palestinian side today. This is a window of hope for 2.3 million people who are stuck without food, medicine, or essential water, all of the essential needs stuck in Gaza. Today there is a little bit of hope that this corridor is open and functioning. Once the mechanism of distributing this food is in place, more trucks will come from this direction, from the Egyptian side. We understand that 4,000 trucks full of food, and some say field hospital are on the other side.
Here in the UK, some train operators are advising customers not to travel today due to widespread disruption following Storm Babet. LNER, Avanti West Coast and Northern Rail say lines are widely flooded. ScotRail says some of its services will remain cancelled until at least tomorrow morning. Heavy rainfall continues to affect parts of the country, and a red weather warning is in place until 6 o'clock this evening in Angus in Scotland, one of the worst affected areas. 3 people are known to have died as a result of the storm so far. Ben Phillip has this report.
From above, the extent of flooding to this region is made clear. The town of Brechin in Angus has been at the epicentre of this storm. These were the scenes yesterday morning as dozens of people had to be rescued from their homes.
You don't need to look far to see the aftermath of the flooding here in Brechin. Debris has washed up onto the road. The clean-up operation is now underway. The flood defences appear to have held last night, but with more rain on the way, locals are concerned.
It looks worse today. It's just mud, isn't it?
Locals like George Wilson. He was evacuated on Wednesday before floodwater swamped his home.
I'm devastated for myself, but you've got to think of other folk as well. Out in the country and scary. It's scary in the dark. That's the worst thing. But we left. We left about about 11 o'clock, I think. I was able to go to my daughter's. Then went to go to the campus next morning with mother-in-law. She was suffering. She woke up in her bed in the morning, and she was lying in water, more or less. So.
Rain overnight and into this morning was relentless. There's been widespread travel disruption as well. The A90 between Dundee and Stonehaven remains closed, and rail services in the east of the country are severely impacted.
The water levels there are still high. We're still in the middle of the heavy rain, and it's going to take some time for these water levels to drop. And it's only when these water levels drop that we're going to be able to go in and look at the structures and if there are any damage to the hammering that these structures have taken over the last few days.
Dozens of flood alerts and warnings remain in place. As locals are left counting the cost of the damage, a red warning is still in force, with more rain and wind expected in the coming hours. Ben Phillip, BBC News, Brechin.
Well, as we've heard, parts of England have also been badly battered by Storm Babette. This map looks at some of the badly affected regions, and our correspondent Andy Gill is in the village of Catcliffe in South Yorkshire for us now. Andy, what's the picture where you are?
Well, this is the main street in Catcliffe where the flooding, even though they have had problems here before, has taken them by surprise. They had a meeting of the local flood group last night. They weren't expecting any problems. That all changed just after 2 o'clock this morning when the flood defences for the River Rother failed. And as you can see, this is the result. A number of cars are stuck in the floodwater at the other end. They've been written off. About 120 properties affected. Up to 50 people taken to a local community hall, and they're going to be put up in hotels later. People have been trying to get to their properties. Rescue workers have been trying to do that for them, but the flooding is just so bad they can't get there. It's up to 6 feet deep in places, and they're not sure when this is going to get better. One parish councillor I've spoken to said he thinks they'll be out of their homes at Christmas. This just one of hundreds of places across England affected by flooding. There are 3 severe flood warnings in Derby. That means there's a danger to life. There are 280 other flood warnings across England as well. And as you mentioned earlier, it's having a real effect on the travel situation. LNER, Avanti and Northern, among the train companies who've advised people not to travel today. There are problems between Doncaster and Wakefield, in Cheshire, in West Yorkshire, in the northeast, between Crewe and North Wales, but also between the northwest of England and Scotland because of the problems there. Also affecting the roads. Lots of roads here in South Yorkshire and Derbyshire closed by the flooding.
OK, Andy Gill in South Yorkshire for us. Andy, thank you very much. Right, let's take a look at some of the day's other stories. The British Medical Association says it'll hold talks with the government next week about the junior doctors' pay dispute in England. Earlier this week, the doctors' union agreed to have a meeting about the separate dispute involving consultants. The government has announced its long-awaited plans to reform recycling in England. Most households will have a weekly food waste collection by early 2026, and there will now be a standardised list of items that councils must recycle. The government says the new rules are designed to make recycling simpler. Some campaigners argue the changes fail to tackle the root cause of plastic pollution. And one of the UK's most senior law enforcement officials says criminals convicted of fraud should be given longer sentences. The director of the National Economic Crime Centre, Adrian Searle, told the BBC not enough consideration is given to the emotional impact of the crime. Now, with all the sport now, here's Chetan Pathak at the BBC Sports Centre. Chetan.
Rich, thank you. Good afternoon. England against South Africa is the theme of the day, starting at the Cricket World Cup, where after 2 defeats of the tournament, England are in need of a win. They won the toss. They put South Africa into bat in Mumbai. Reza Hendricks got them off to the best possible start, top scoring with a total of 85. England took a while to get going, but 2 quick-fire wickets got them back into it. Look at this, a superb catch from Johnny Bairstow to dismiss captain Aidan Markram. It was shortly followed by the wicket of David Miller. Heinrich Klaasen's kicked on for South Africa, though, with some big hitting. They are 326 for 5 with 27 balls remaining. Back from the international break, there are 9 games in the Premier League today. The Merseyside derby is approaching half-time. It is Liverpool 0, Everton 0, but Everton have had Ashley Young sent off. Later comes the London derby with the joint leaders Arsenal at Chelsea. In Paris, England's rugby players are going through their final preparations for tonight's World Cup semi-final against South Africa. It is a repeat of the final 4 years ago, which England lost, but can they beat the defending champions this time round, with New Zealand awaiting the winners? Our sports correspondent Andy Swiss reports.
The first England fans arrived in Paris, hoping it'll be worth the journey. They know their team are the underdogs against South Africa, and while there is optimism, it's very much of the cautious kind.
I'm getting more and more deluded the closer we get to Saturday night. It gave us no chance last week, but I've been reading the news on the way over here, and I think we're going to win.
I think we've got a chance. I think everyone's writing us off too early. I think we're not as bad as everyone's making, and I think if we play to our potential, I think we can do it.
England to get through?
Yeah.
Don't sound entirely confident.
Yeah. I wouldn't put my mortgage on it, but why not? Why not, yeah.
But while England haven't looked world beaters yet, they're relaxed and ready. They might have lost to South Africa in the final 4 years ago, but they believe history will count for little.
We've obviously changed as a team. I imagine South Africa feel like they've changed over 4 years as well. So we understand what task is in front of us, what a good team we're playing against, what a well-drilled team playing against, but we're excited to get out there.
Well, here at the Stade de France, England will face the very toughest of tests, but a team that few had fancied before this tournament are now just 1 win from the final.
South Africa aren't just the world champions, though. They're also the new world #1s, and their fans are full of confidence.
It's crazy. I think rugby is the one sport that really brings all South Africans together, and I think for our culture and our country, it will be amazing to win it back-to-back.
South Africa going to win?
I think so, yeah. I think we'll probably edge it by a few points.
Agreed.
Yeah, it'll be tight.
Agreed.
England, though, have relished defying their doubters, a team united in belief, and tonight they'll hope united in triumph. Andy Swiss, BBC News, Paris.
That match kicks off at 8 o'clock with live commentary on BBC Radio 5 Live. That's all your sport for now. Rich.
Chetan, thank you very much. That is it from us for now. The next news on BBC One is at 5:30. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon.